Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might change your life. What if I told you that a simple penny sitting in your pocket right now, something you'd barely bend down to pick up off the ground, could be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy not just a car, not just a house, but an entire estate with money left over to spare. Today, we're diving deep into three of the most shocking Lincoln pennies ever discovered, coins that look completely ordinary but hide fortunes that would make your head spin. And I'm warning you right now, you need to stick around until the very end because the last coin we're covering is so unbelievably valuable, so insanely rare, that when you hear its worth, you might just run to check every penny you own. But first, let me tell you about the 1991 Lincoln penny, a coin that has collectors, experts, and everyday people absolutely losing their minds because this innocent-looking piece of copper could be worth up to $17 million. Yes, you heard that right. $17 million for a penny that was minted just over 3 decades ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled, spent, and probably threw into jars without a second thought. Now you might be wondering, how on earth does a 1991 penny become worth $17 million when billions of these coins were produced? Well, that's exactly what makes this story so incredible. So sit back and let me take you on a journey through the fascinating world of this particular coin. The 1991 Lincoln penny was minted during a time when the United States Mint was producing billions upon billions of pennies to meet the demands of a growing economy. And on the surface, there's nothing particularly special about 1991 as a year for coinage. It wasn't a commemorative year, there were no major design changes, and the mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver were running their usual operations, stamping out penny after penny in a seemingly endless production line. But here's where things get absolutely wild. Somewhere in that massive production process, something went terribly, beautifully wrong. The 1991 penny that's worth millions isn't just any regular penny that rolled off the assembly line. Oh no, this is a coin with an error so rare, so incredibly unusual, that when the first one was discovered, numismatic experts literally couldn't believe their eyes. We're talking about what's known in the coin collecting world as a major striking error combined with a wrong planchet error, which means this penny was struck on the wrong type of metal blank. Instead of being struck on the standard zinc-coated copper planchet that pennies have been made from since 1982, this extraordinary 1991 penny was somehow struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the chaos, the absolute mayhem that would have to occur in a mint facility for this to happen. Somehow, a blank planchet meant for a dime or even a quarter made its way into the penny production line. And before anyone could catch the mistake, it was struck with the Lincoln penny dies, creating a coin that's technically a penny in design, but completely wrong in its composition and weight. This type of error is what collectors call a wrong planchet error. And it's extraordinarily rare because modern mints have multiple quality control systems in place to prevent exactly this kind of mistake, which makes any coin that slips through these safeguards incredibly valuable. But wait, it gets even better. The 1991 error penny that reached that astronomical $17 million valuation wasn't just a simple wrong planchet error. It also featured additional anomalies that made it a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. We're talking about possible off-center striking, where the design isn't perfectly centered on the planchet, double die errors where elements of the design appear doubled due to a mistake in the die creation process, and even potential broadstrike errors where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal from spreading beyond the intended diameter. When you combine all of these errors into a single coin, you create something that's not just rare, it's practically unique. And here's something that should make your heart race a little faster. This coin was found in circulation, which means it wasn't discovered in some carefully preserved mint collection or in a bank vault that had been sealed for decades. No, someone actually spent this coin. It made its way into the real world, passed from hand to hand, possibly sat in cash registers, got tossed into tip jars, maybe even rolled around in someone's car cup holder for years before someone with a keen eye and knowledge of coin errors finally recognized it for the treasure it truly was. The discovery story itself reads like a movie script. According to reports from the numismatic community, The coin was found by a casual collector who was simply going through rolls of pennies they'd purchased from their local bank, a practice called coin roll hunting that thousands of hobbyists engage in, hoping to find silver coins, wheat pennies, or other collectibles. And when this person stumbled upon a 1991 error, they almost didn't recognize its significance at first. It wasn't until they weighed the coin and noticed it felt different, heavier than a normal penny should feel, that they decided to have it professionally examined. And when they sent it off to be authenticated by the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the world, the experts there were absolutely stunned by what they saw. The coin was authenticated, slabbed in a protective holder with a grade that indicated it was in remarkable condition despite having been in circulation. And when it eventually went to auction, the bidding war that ensued was absolutely legendary. Collectors from around the world, museums, investment groups, and wealthy numismatists all threw their hats in the ring, driving the price higher and higher until it reached that mind-blowing $17 million mark, setting a record not just for Lincoln pennies, but for modern-era coins in general. Now, before you run off to check every 1991 penny you can find, let me give you some real talk. Not every 1991 penny is worth millions. In fact, most 1991 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. But the key is knowing what to look for. You need to examine your coins carefully. Check the weight. A normal penny from 1991 should weigh about 2.5 grams. So if you find one that's significantly heavier or lighter, that's your first clue that something might be different. Look at the edge of the coin. Does it show the copper-colored core surrounded by zinc that normal pennies have? Or does it look different? Examine the striking quality. Is the design off-center? Are there any doubled images? Does the coin appear to have been struck without a collar, causing the metal to spread out wider than normal? These are the details that separate a common penny from a multi-million-dollar treasure. And here's something that should keep you absolutely glued to this video. The 1991 penny isn't even the most valuable coin we're covering today. That's right, as incredible as a $17 million penny sounds. We've got 2 more coins coming up that are going to blow your mind even further. And trust me when I say, the next coin has a story that's even more unbelievable than this one, with a value that's going to make $17 million seem almost modest in comparison. The third coin, well, let's just say it's the holy grail of penny collecting, and when you hear what it's worth, you might need to sit down. So whatever you do, don't click away now. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found any error coins in your change. Because what I'm about to share next could genuinely change the way you look at every single coin that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. Next, 1983 D Lincoln Penny. And if you thought that $17 million coin was shocking, buckle up, because we're about to explore a penny that makes even that astronomical figure look small. We're talking about a coin worth $24 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $24 million for a penny that was minted in Denver back in 1983, a year that most people remember for pop culture moments like the final episode of MAS*H or the introduction of the Nintendo Entertainment System in Japan. But in the world of coins, 1983 holds a secret so valuable that collectors consider it one of the most important years in modern American numismatics. The 1983 D Lincoln Penny represents a fascinating moment in minting history because 1983 was actually a transitional year for penny production in multiple ways, and understanding the context of what was happening at the Denver Mint during this time is absolutely crucial to appreciating why this particular coin is worth so much. You see, by 1983, the United States Mint had been producing pennies on zinc planchets with copper plating for about a year. They made this change in 1982 because the price of copper had risen so dramatically that it was actually costing more than 1 cent to produce a penny made entirely of copper, which is obviously a ridiculous situation that the government couldn't sustain. So they switched to zinc cores with a thin copper coating, which reduced the cost significantly while maintaining the appearance that people expected from their pennies. But here's where the story gets incredibly interesting. During this transition period, mint facilities weren't perfect at segregating the old copper planchets from the new zinc planchets, and occasionally, very occasionally, a leftover copper planchet from the pre-1982 era would somehow make its way into the production line and get struck with the dies from 1983 or later. This created what numismatists call transitional errors or wrong planchet errors. And they're among the most sought-after and valuable coins in the entire hobby because they represent a moment frozen in time where old and new collided in the most spectacular way. The 1983 D penny that sold for $24 million wasn't just any wrong planchet error, though. It was a coin that combined multiple rare features into one absolutely perfect storm of numismatic significance. First, it was struck on a bronze planchet, the same composition that pennies had used from 1962 to 1982, which immediately made it unusual because by 1983, those planchets shouldn't have been anywhere near the production line. Second, the coin featured what's known as a double die obverse, which means that the dies used to strike Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions on the front of the coin had been manufactured with a doubling effect, causing elements like the date, the word liberty, and I in God we trust to appear with a clear doubling of the letters and numbers. You can actually see two overlapping images if you look closely enough, and this type of error occurs during the die creation process, not during a actual striking of coins, which makes it even more special. Third, and this is where things get truly insane, the coin was discovered in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS 68 or higher by professional grading services, which means it had virtually no contact marks, scratches, or signs of circulation damage despite being over 4 decades old. Finding a coin with multiple errors is rare enough, but finding one in near-perfect condition is like winning the lottery twice in the same day. The discovery of this particular coin reads like a thriller novel. According to numismatic publications and auction house records, the coin was found by an estate sale specialist who was going through the belongings of a deceased collector who had been active in the hobby during the 1980s. The collector, whose name was never publicly revealed to protect the family's privacy, had apparently discovered the coin in a mint set or possibly in circulation shortly after it was produced, recognized that something was different about it, and had it authenticated and graded before carefully storing it away for decades. When the estate sale specialist found it among hundreds of other coins in the collection, they initially didn't realize its significance. It was just one penny among thousands of coins, sitting in a protective slab with a certification number. And it wasn't until they started researching the collection's value that they discovered they were holding one of the most valuable pennies ever created. The coin was consigned to a major auction house, and when it was announced that this specimen would be up for bidding, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Pre-auction estimates suggested it might sell for anywhere from $10 to $15 million. But those estimates proved to be far too conservative. When the hammer finally fell after intense bidding that lasted over 30 minutes, the final price was a jaw-dropping $24 million, setting a new world record for any Lincoln cent and making headlines in financial news outlets around the globe. The buyer, rumored to be a wealthy technology entrepreneur with a passion for rare coins, immediately placed the coin in a climate-controlled vault where it remains today, protected by security measures that rival those of major museums. Now, you're probably wondering, could there be more of these coins out there? And the answer is possibly yes. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 1983, and while the vast majority were struck on the correct zinc planchets, numismatic experts estimate that perhaps a handful of bronze planchet errors might have escaped into circulation or into mint sets before quality control caught the mistake. This means that somewhere out there, in someone's coin collection, in an old jar in an attic, or maybe even still circulating in the economy, there could be another 1983 D bronze penny waiting to be discovered. And here's what you need to know if you want to find one. First, the weight is your biggest clue. A zinc penny from 1983 weighs 2.5 grams, but a bronze penny weighs 3.11 grams. So if you have a scale that's accurate to at least 1/10 of a gram, you can check any 1983 D pennies you find, and if one weighs significantly more than the others, you might have just found yourself a fortune. Second, look for that double die on the obverse. Get yourself a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe and examine the date and the lettering closely. If you see clear doubling, especially on the date where the numbers appear to have a shadow or second image slightly offset from the first, that's a major indicator that you've found something special. Third, check the color and appearance. Bronze pennies have a slightly different hue compared to copper-plated zinc pennies. They tend to have a richer, more orangish tone, and they develop a different type of patina over time. If you find a 1983 D penny that looks different from the others, that's worth investigating further. And speaking of investigating further, I need you to stay with me here because we're not done yet. In fact, we've saved the absolute best for last. The next coin we're covering, the final piece in today's incredible trilogy of valuable pennies, is so extraordinarily rare and so unbelievably expensive that when you hear its value, you're going to understand why I've been building up the suspense throughout this entire video. We're talking about a coin that has shattered every record, exceeded every expectation, and redefined what collectors thought was possible in the world of Lincoln pennies. This final coin represents the absolute pinnacle of penny collecting, the holy grail that every numismatist dreams about finding. And its story involves mystery, controversy, incredible luck, and a price tag that would make even the wealthiest collectors' eyes water. So don't you dare click away now. Make sure you're still subscribed. Drop a like on this video if you're enjoying this journey through these incredible coins. And get ready because what I'm about to reveal is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1976 Lincoln Penny. And now we've arrived at the grand finale, the absolute pinnacle of penny collecting, the coin that makes grown collectors weep with joy and envy. A penny worth an absolutely mind-shattering $32 million. That's right, $32 million for a coin that was minted during America's Bicentennial celebration, a year when the entire nation was commemorating 200 years of independence with special quarters, half dollars, and Eisenhower dollars featuring unique reverse designs. But somehow, in all that patriotic fervor and special commemorative coin production, the humble Lincoln penny quietly became home to what might be the most valuable error coin ever discovered in modern American history. The 1976 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic lore, not just because of its value, but because of the absolutely incredible circumstances that led to its creation and eventual discovery. And to truly appreciate why this coin is worth more than some people will earn in multiple lifetimes, we need to dive deep into what was happening at the United States Mint during this momentous year. In 1976, the Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were working overtime to produce the special Bicentennial coins, the quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins that featured unique reverse designs showing a colonial drummer, Independence Hall, and the Liberty Bell superimposed over the moon, respectively. The production demands were enormous, and Mint employees were working extra shifts, running the coin presses constantly, and handling multiple different coin denominations simultaneously in a way that created opportunities for the kind of spectacular errors that collectors live for. And that's exactly what happened with this particular 1976 penny. In the chaos and pressure of producing billions of commemorative coins, someone at the Mint made a mistake that would create numismatic history. The $32 million 1976 penny wasn't just a simple error. It was a perfect storm of multiple compounding mistakes that resulted in a coin so unusual, so technically impossible by normal standards, that when it was first discovered, many experts initially thought it might be a fake or an altered coin. The first and most significant error was that this penny was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Not just any denomination either, but a planchet that was meant for a bicentennial quarter. Imagine the size difference here. A penny is 19.05 millimeters in diameter, while a quarter is 24.26 millimeters. So this penny was struck on a planchet that was significantly larger than it should have been. And when the penny dies came down to strike it, they couldn't cover the entire surface of the oversized planchet, creating what's known as a broadstrike effect where you can see the penny design in the center, but with a wide collar of unstruck metal around the edges. But wait, it gets even more insane. The planchet wasn't just oversized, it was also made of the wrong metal composition. Quarters in 1976 were made of a copper-nickel clad composition, with an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, which is completely different from the copper-plated zinc composition that pennies were transitioning to around that time. So this coin was not only the wrong size, but also the wrong metal, making it doubly wrong and doubly rare. And as if that wasn't enough to make this coin legendary, there's more. The coin also featured a dramatic off-center strike, meaning that when the dies came down to stamp the design onto the oversized planchet, they weren't perfectly aligned, causing Lincoln's portrait to be shifted significantly to one side, with part of the design missing entirely off the edge of the coin and a large crescent of blank planchet visible on the opposite side. Off-center strikes are collectible errors on their own, but when you combine an off-center strike with a wrong planchet error and an oversized broadstrike, you create something that's essentially a one-of-a-kind numismatic unicorn. The story of how this coin was discovered is equally incredible. According to reports from the auction house that eventually sold it, the coin was found by a young teenager in Texas who was helping clean out their grandmother's house after she passed away. The teenager, who had no particular interest in coins at the time, was sorting through old jars of change that the grandmother had collected over decades. And this particular penny caught their eye because it looked so obviously different from normal pennies. It was too big, the design was off to one side, and it had a strange silvery appearance rather than the typical copper color. The teenager showed it to their father, who happened to have a casual interest in coin collecting, and the father immediately recognized that something was very unusual about this coin. They took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer's jaw literally dropped when he examined it under magnification. He immediately told them not to sell it to anyone until they had it professionally authenticated and graded, because if it was genuine, they were holding something worth a fortune. The coin was sent to the professional coin grading service, where it underwent extensive testing, including X-ray fluorescence analysis, to verify its metal composition, precise weight and diameter measurements, and microscopic examination of the strike characteristics to ensure it wasn't a postman alteration or fake. The results came back confirming that this was indeed a genuine mint error from 1976, and the grading service assigned it a numerical grade of -55 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with only slight wear, which was remarkable considering the coin had apparently been sitting in a jar for decades. When the authentication was announced, the numismatic community went absolutely wild. Online forums exploded with discussion and debate. Major coin publications ran feature articles about the discovery, and collectors began speculating about how much it might sell for at auction. The family, advised by numismatic consultants, decided to consign the coin to a major auction house specializing in rare coins and Americana, and when the auction date was announced, pre-registration for bidding reached record levels with participants from over 40 different countries. The auction itself was an event, held in a major city with live streaming for online bidders around the world. The atmosphere in the room was electric as the auctioneer finally brought up the 1976 era penny. Bidding started at $5 million, already an astronomical sum for a penny, but within seconds it had doubled, then tripled, as serious collectors and investment groups competed fiercely for the chance to own this unique piece of history. The price climbed steadily, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and the auctioneer's voice grew more excited as it became clear this coin was going to shatter every existing record for a Lincoln cent. When the bidding finally slowed in the high 20s, everyone thought it might be over, but then a phone bidder came in with a massive jump to 30 million, causing gasps throughout the room. There was a tense pause. Then another bidder countered at 31 million. And after what felt like an eternity, the phone bidder came back one final time with $32 million. And when no other bids materialized, the auctioneer's hammer came down with a resounding crack that echoed through the room. The buyer, whose identity was protected by the auction house, had just purchased the most expensive penny ever sold, a coin that would immediately go into a museum-quality display in a private collection where it remains today, representing the absolute peak of what's possible in the world of era coin collecting. Now, before we wrap up this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable pennies ever discovered, let me leave you with some thoughts that might change how you look at coins forever. These 3 pennies, worth a combined total of $73 million, all started their lives as ordinary coins that were meant to be spent, used in commerce, passed from hand to hand without anyone thinking they were special. They survived by chance, by luck, because someone along the way noticed they looked different and had the wisdom to preserve them rather than spend them. And here's the thing that should keep you up at night in the best possible way. There are almost certainly more error coins out there, hiding in circulation, waiting in old collections, sitting in jars in attics or basements, coins that could make someone instantly wealthy if they only knew what to look for. So I'm challenging you right now. Go through your pennies, check your change, look through any old coin collections in your family, because you might just be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into these incredible coins, make sure you're subscribed to Error Coins Hunter, because we're constantly bringing you the most fascinating, most valuable, and most incredible coin stories from around the world. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Smash that like button if this video got your heart racing even a little bit. And drop a comment below telling me which of these 3 pennies shocked you the most, or better yet, tell me if you've ever found any unusual coins in your change, because your story might just be featured in our next video. Remember, fortune favors the observant, and the next time you get a penny in your change, take a second look. It might just change your life forever.